right, everybody, welcome back. We are jumping right into a deep dive that I think is going to be super interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the upcoming U.S. election
Okay.
and how it's actually intertwined with Brazilian politics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this all started because the current Brazilian president, Lula da Silva,
Lula.
yeah,
Yeah.
publicly endorsed
Publicly.
Kamala Harris
Wow.
for U.S. president.
Okay.
And that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
It's not every day that you see a world leader, especially.
Right.
Someone as prominent as the president of Brazil
Yeah.
coming out and endorsing a U.S. presidential candidate.
No, absolutely not.
So that's why we're diving into this.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at, what does Lula hope to gain from this?
Right.
What are the potential implications for Brazil, depending on the outcome of the U.S. election?
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be good.
When Lula made these comments to TF1,
Yes.
which is a French news outlet.
He called Harris the safer choice
Interesting.
to strengthen democracy.
Okay.
And he even brought up the January 6th Capitol riot
Oh, wow.
in the same breath.
So he's really concerned about
Uh-huh.
what a potential Trump victory could mean.
Absolutely. Yeah, it
And-
sounds like he is really worried
Mhm.
about what a Trump presidency could mean, not just for the U.S.,
Right.
but for the world.
The world, yeah.
And this is the man who's,
Yeah.
lived through authoritarianism in Brazil.
Right.
So his concerns about
Yeah.
democracy backsliding are very, very real.
Very real.
And they're very personal for him.
Very, very personal.
And it's not even just about the U.S., right?
Right.
He's saying that there's this global trend
He is.
of rising Nazism
Yeah.
and fascism.
It's interesting
And he's seeing parallels
that he sees these parallels.
between the political climate in the U.S.
Yeah.
and potential threats to democracy
Mm-hmm.
in Brazil and other parts of the world.
Yeah. And the spread of misinformation,
Right.
which we know can
Yeah.
really have an impact on
Yeah.
democratic institutions.
Absolutely.
And really affect elections and
Yeah.
how they play out.
So when we talk about, Lula's reasoning,
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly worried
He is.
about what another Trump presidency
Right.
could mean and what kind of
Yeah.
policies we might see.
What would those policies look like?
Yeah, what would those look like? I mean,
Yeah.
would we see...
I mean, think about some of the things we saw during his first term.
Right.
I mean, we had trade wars.
Yeah.
The U.S. withdrew from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord.
Yeah.
There was all this questioning about NATO's relevance.
Right.
I mean, these things cause real friction
Yeah.
with countries like Brazil.
Absolutely.
And it makes sense that Lula would fear either a repeat of these things or maybe even worse.
Yeah, an escalation.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, it's easy to look at this as just ideology.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Lula's just, he's left-leaning, so of course he's not
Right. Of course he's going to support a Democrat.
going to support Trump.
Yeah.
But it goes so much deeper than that
It does.
because we're talking about real-world consequences
Real world
for the Brazilian people,
Absolutely.
for the Brazilian economy, for,
Yeah.
just the overall stability
Likability of the
of
region.
the region,
Of the globe, even.
of the globe.
Yeah.
So what are some of the specific things
Sure.
that are at stake here for Brazil?
Well, I mean, let's start with the economic side of things.
Okay.
Brazil is a major agricultural exporter.
Right.
A lot of soybeans and the tariffs
Yeah.
that were imposed.
During the previous Trump administration.
Yes. During the previous Trump administration really hurt Brazil.
Yeah.
And so there's a real concern that that could happen again.
And I think there's also that fear that,
Right. Yeah.
a Trump victory
Mm.
could embolden these far-right
It could embolden
figures in Brazil.
those far-right figures in Brazil who have similar views to Trump.
Who are kind of
Yeah.
mimicking that same kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, that nationalist, populist rhetoric.
And we've seen this happen in other parts of the world
We have.
where
Yeah.
a Trump presidency has kind of given
Right.
permission
Some of them permission.
for these other far-right leaders
Yeah.
to act in similar ways.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about
Yeah.
what's happening in the U.S., it's about what that could unleash
Yeah, what it could unleash in other parts of the world.
in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a potential
Yeah.
destabilization
Stabilization of Brazilian politics.
of Brazilian politics,
Potentially.
and all because
And all because of what's happening in the U.S.
a U.S. election.
And I think that just makes Lula's statement
Right.
all the more powerful.
Yeah.
Because we know that the U.S. election is
Right.
going to be really close.
Yeah, it's going to be a nail-biter.
Yeah.
So the stakes are super high.
Super high.
And it's not Yeah. Just about domestic politics anymore.
This has global implications.
It's global. It's like
global
the
implications.
whole world is watching.
They are.
And you can just imagine, like,
I know.
the conversations happening
Behind closed doors.
behind closed doors in Brasilia.
Right now.
They're watching this election
Absolutely.
with bated breath.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's this sense of
a sense of urgency.
like urgency and almost like a plea coming from Lula, like, please, U.S. voters, think about the global consequences of your choice.
That's right.
Because it's not just about Americans anymore. It's about the entire world.
This is a global phenomenon. This isn't just happening in Brazil. We're seeing other world leaders express concern as well.
About the future of U.S. democracy.
About the future of U.S. democracy and how that's going to play out on the global stage.
So Lula's endorsement is really just...
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
It's a symptom of something much bigger.
It is.
And I think it's this stark reminder.
It's a reminder.
That this election is not just about choosing a president.
Right.
It's about the future of democracy.
It is.
Not just in the U.S., but globally.
Yes.
And that's a heavy weight to carry.
It is a very important question.
I think so.
To consider.
Yeah.
You know, how is this endorsement going to affect U.S.-Brazil relations?
Right, regardless of who wins.
Regardless of who wins.
Yeah, is this going to set some kind of precedent?
Could it?
For other world leaders to feel like they can be more vocal in U.S. elections?
And weigh in on U.S. elections.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but the implications are huge.
Absolutely. And that's it for our deep dive today.
Great deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this was really interesting.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Right.